Jakuin. Ingong had always been teased for his name, a name his parents gave him hoping he'd one day become someone important. Despite the jokes, he carried the dream of being a main character. One day, he rushed to a game store, excited to get his hands on the remake of Night Saga, a game he had conquered many times in his childhood. It was a fantasy world filled with humans, demons, and the legendary Zephyr Rag. Unlike the past versions, this one was designed for VR, the first of its kind. Confident in his knowledge of the game, Ingong prepared his headset, inserted the cartridge, and sat in the VR pod, ready to dive in. As the machine powered on, the world around him transformed. Bright lights flashed, and he found himself waking up inside the game, not in a bed, but in a wooden room. Confused, he looked at his avatar's hands. Something felt off. He didn't choose this character. Before he could think further, an orc-like NPC burst in, calling him to action. Ingong was stunned, not by the interruption, but by how real everything felt. The game wasn't just immersive, it was indistinguishable from real life. After entering the game, Ingong realized he had not selected his character. Strangely, he had become Ingong Igneous, the Demon King's ninth son. An orc named Karak greeted him and referred to him as a prince. Confused but curious, Ingong opened the status window and confirmed his identity. Though the stats were underwhelming, two unique skills stood out: Conquest and Protagonist setting adjustment. As he stepped out of the tent, he was swept into what appeared to be a military operation. The orc warriors moved in formation, preparing for combat. Ingong, adapting quickly, ordered them to stop and reorganize. His voice carried unexpected authority. Though it was only meant to be a patrol, he treated it as serious strategy preparation. When he accessed the minimap, he discovered a hidden path. Intrigued, he chose to follow it, leading the group off the main route. The others were confused, but followed regardless. The path brought them into a dense forest, where they encountered another orc unit waiting. With new terrain and a full squad behind, Ingong took the lead. Though unfamiliar with this world, his game knowledge and instincts began to shape his new identity, not just as a player, but as a leader. Ingong led the orc patrol through a dense forest and eventually arrived at a massive sealed gate. Despite his exhaustion, he pressed forward, curious about what lay beyond. One of the orcs questioned how he had found the place, but Ingong brushed it off. As he approached the gate, a strange surge of energy engulfed. Without warning, he leveled up just by walking, increasing all his stats and granting him extra skill points. Amazed by the abnormal progression, he regrouped with the others and entered the gate. Inside, they discovered a vast icy cave. The orcs guessed it was built by dwarves who had long since disappeared. As they explored further, they stumbled upon a hidden armory filled with gold and weapons. The orcs cheered, collecting everything in sight. Ingong examined a rack of powerful equipment, but system messages warned his level, strength, and magic were insufficient. Still, he activated his inventory and began collecting the item, planning to use them later. As he reached out, a thought-triggered mechanism allowed him to store gear instantly. Just as he adjusted to the new system, his minimap blinked again, revealing another mysterious location. Something unexpected was waiting ahead. Inside the cave, Ingong ordered the orcs to retreat as a powerful surge of red energy erupted ahead. The source was soon revealed: a heavily armed warrior from the Scarlet Lightning tribe, General Kai-chan, leading a hostile force. The enemy wasted no time and charged. Chaos erupted as orcs and enemies clashed violently. Caught in the middle, Ingong panicked. With low combat experience and no offensive skill, he struggled to act. While the orcs fought bravely, he attempted to gain experience by attacking distracted enemies. His attack landed but only attracted unwanted attention. One of the red warriors noticed him and charged with lethal intent. Ingong fled, but a single blow knocked him down, leaving him with just 1 HP. Terrified and desperate, he screamed, ran, only narrowly avoiding another fatal strike. The battle raged on, and Karak appeared, holding off enemies to protect him. Ingong watched in shock, realizing how real the pain and danger felt. It was no longer just a game. He attempted to access his skill, but the screen showed nothing. All of his abilities had disappeared. Confused and afraid, he questioned the system, unsure if the game had turned on him, or if something much deeper was unfolding. Ingong realized the worst possibility. He might be trapped in the game. As the battle intensified, a powerful enemy unleashed a deadly magic attack. With no strength to fight back, Ingong was struck directly. Desperation set in. He struggled to survive, clinging to life with a single point of health. But the final blow landed. His screen flashed red. His HP dropped to 0. As darkness closed in, his fate became uncertain. The game no longer felt like one. After falling in battle, Ingong found himself in a dark, unfamiliar space. Disoriented, he questioned whether he had died. But then, a mysterious voice echoed, declaring him the destined conqueror. A radiant figure appeared and gave him a command to enslave and rule. The vision faded, and he awoke back on the battlefield, surrounded by chaos and corpse. The enemy commander mocked the orcs for attacking with such low number, but his taunts were interrupted. Ingong stood again, glowing with strange energy. The enemy was stunned by his unexpected return. Suddenly, a system message confirmed his new skill, telekinesis, and granted him the subclass, Knight of Conquest. Unsure how he acquired these powers, Ingong checked his status window. His new subclass wasn't even part of the original Knight class structure. Confused but focused, he prepared to fight. The enemies charged, But the orcs rallied to protect, shouting that the prince must not be harmed. Amid the chaos, Ingong realized something had changed within him. Not only had he survived the impossible, but he had awakened a path no one else had. The Knight of Conquest had risen, and with him, the tide of the battle was beginning to shift. Ingong stood firm, confused at first, but then something awakened within him. Energy surged through his body as ancient spells and knowledge echoed in his mind. Without training, his hands moved instinctively. He summoned the king's banner, a powerful symbol that amplified his authority. The orcs rallied behind him, their strength suddenly enhanced by the passive effect of his leadership skill. With newfound morale, the orcs pushed back against the enemy, overwhelming them with speed and force. The red-skinned warriors were caught off guard by the sudden shift in power. Their confidence crumbled as they watched their ranks fall one by one. Ingong's aura grew brighter. The enemy attempted another magical assault, but he blocked it, standing as the center of their fear. He gave Karak the command to strike, and with explosive strength, the orc warriors smashed through enemy line. Panic spread among the red forces. Their formation collapsed, and they began to retreat. Ingong, unfazed, ordered a pursuit. The orcs charged again, not letting a single foe escape. Moments later, system messages filled the air, multiple level-up notifications and confirmation that the general's merits had been awarded to Ingong. He had transformed from a confused player into a commanding leader on the battlefield. After the battle, Ingong was shocked by the number of levels he gained. Karak noticed an unusual power surging through his body and questioned its source. As realization sank in, the orcs began to suspect that their rapid growth might be tied to the prince himself. Meanwhile, Ingong tried once again to find a way to log out, but no button existed. He calmed himself and weighed two possibilities. Either a system bug had trapped him in virtual reality, or, more alarmingly, he had crossed into another world entirely. Thinking deeper, he compared the world to stories in comics, where protagonists are transported into game-like realities. The world felt too real emotion conversation, and even death felt authentic. Still, he took solace in the fact that he was reborn as a prince, and not a low-ranking creature. That night, Karak approached him, requesting a sparring match. Though hesitant, Ingong agreed, understanding the importance of his role. They faced off under the moonlight. Karak assured he would go easy, but Ingong took the fight seriously, launching the first strike with determination. Though lacking skill, he fought with resolve. For the first time, Ingong stopped thinking like a player, and began acting like a prince. During the sparring match, Ingong launched rapid attacks, surprising Karak with his energy. However, he was soon overwhelmed and thrown to the ground. Despite the loss, a notification appeared. He had acquired basic swordsmanship. Realizing skills might be gained through direct experience, Ingong saw the opportunity in pain itself. Energized by the discovery, he stood back up, declaring the fight wasn't over. After intense training, the young prince engaged in a sparring match with Karak, determined to measure his growth. Though initially clumsy, his movements gradually sharpened, surprising Karak with his sudden improvement. It became clear that something within the boy had awakened, something that enhanced his abilities beyond normal progression. After the match, the prince quietly accessed his status window, confirming his current level. Just 7 despite the gap between him and Karak. He was confident he would soon catch up. Unlike others, he could view his stats and allocate points freely. This unique advantage would allow him to grow faster than anyone else in this world. Reflecting on the future, he recalled the plot of the Night Saga game, the very game that shaped this world. In it, Zephyr, one of the Demon King's children, would eventually slay all his siblings to claim the throne. Knowing this, the prince understood he was also a target. With the current year being 552, he still had time to change fate. To survive, he concluded that becoming stronger than Zephyr was the only solution. Just as his thoughts solidified, Karak arrived, reminding him of an important meeting. With renewed purpose, the prince headed toward the gathering. After arriving early to the meeting, the young prince encountered his siblings, Chris and Caitlin, for the first time. Despite their royal bloodline, the atmosphere remained surprisingly casual. Chris, the confident 7th prince, and Caitlin, the 8th princess, were known for their strength and lineage, though this was their first direct interaction with their younger brother. The prince, aware of their fates from his past life as a player, quietly observed their personalities and circumstance. He remembered how both Chris and Caitlin had been killed a year before the infamous Day of Massacre, due to Caitlin's status as an illegitimate child. This knowledge pushed him to act differently, aiming to build bonds and possibly change the course of events. Unexpectedly, Caitlin showed concern for his safety after a recent patrol, checking him for injuries and calling him the weakest. The kindness caught him off guard, making him question what he thought he knew. The meeting continued with light conversation, but the prince's thoughts remained on his growing power. He asked for help in learning aura techniques. However, just as things seemed calm, a sudden attack outside the stronghold erupted. Explosions shook the battlefield as enemies ambushed their forces, signaling a new conflict had begun. Fierce battle erupted as red-skinned warriors clashed with overwhelming fury, their war cries shaking the battlefield. Among them, a dark figure tore through the ranks with unmatched strength, leaving chaos in his wake. Encouraged by the promise of reward, the warriors fought savagely, each trying to outmatch the other in raw brutality. In the midst of the violence, the young prince found himself transported to a surreal realm. Surrounded by unfamiliar figures, cloaked in light and shadows, he was bewildered. These characters did not exist in the story he knew. Something was different. A mysterious woman and a group of unknown warriors stood before him, radiating power. Before he could understand, he was pulled back into consciousness. Awakening abrupt, he questioned the strange vision. His ally, surprised by his sudden alert, remarked on his condition. Then, unexpectedly, the prince unlocked a hidden potential. His aura had awakened. The power surged within him, confirmed by the glowing message. You have obtained Aura LV1. He realized that his unusual method of awakening through direct combat had worked. With his newfound strength and clarity, he now understood his advantage. Though weaker in level, his path to surpassing others had just begun. With Aura as his weapon, Ingong awoke from a strange dream, only to hear news of General Bandal's victory. Realizing Bandal had not yet joined Zephyr, Ingong saw his opportunity. With full knowledge of Bandal's traits and history, he decided to act swift. His plan was clear: defeat Bandal and make him his subordinate. After awakening his aura in just one day, the boy impressed everyone at Caitlyn's camp. His aura, refined and controlled, was stronger than expected. Surprised by his rapid progress, Chris questioned whether his Gandharva heritage was the cause. Despite the doubt, the boy stayed focused on the mission. With the help of a detailed underground map, the group prepared to scout hidden tunnel. Their goal was to locate enemy movements before an ambush could occur. With support from his siblings and a group of orc reinforcements, the boy took command of the patrol team and advanced into the forest near the mountain. While patrolling, they encountered Caitlyn, disguised in a robe, along with a mysterious girl named Sarah. Caitlyn had secretly joined them to provide support if danger arose. Though surprised, the boy welcomed their backup. The team proceeded cautiously, aware that they were venturing deeper into enemy territory. As they entered a cave system, the mood turned tense. The caverns were abandoned and eerily quiet. Most valuables were gone, likely taken by dwarves. Even so, the emptiness felt unnatural. Despite their confusion, they pressed forward, deeper into the tunnel, unaware of the lurking threats awaiting their next move. A group led by the prince cautiously advanced through the underground tunnels, sensing an approaching threat. Mapping the enemy's location, the prince prepared a flash item for an emergency. When the stone spiders charged, he used the item to blind them, giving his allies a crucial opening. As the bright light stunned the stone spiders, the orc warriors launched an attack. The prince shouted orders, directing the group to target the spiders while they were vulnerable. The creatures hissed in pain, weakened by exposure to the light. Taking advantage, the team engaged the enemy head on with combat, escalating. The prince identified that these creatures were part of a larger group. His analysis confirmed the presence of a leader among them. He and his team split, planning to eliminate the main threat. As expected, a larger spider appeared, and they rushed to engage it in battle. The prince landed a direct strike on the spider leader, but its armor-like body was nearly impenetrable. He realized its defense surpassed his expectations. While the orcs held the line, the prince assessed the situation further. He concluded the spider's weakness was fire, but he hadn't learned fire magic yet. Still, he continued to fight, searching for an alternative strategy. The group was cornered by massive stone spiders immune to ordinary attacks. Realizing their weakness was fire, Shuray instinctively summoned flame through his sword. Magic surged unexpectedly. With his sister's aid, he struck back. Channeling the fire into his blade, Shuray launched a powerful burning blade to incinerate the enemy. A wave of flames surged across the battlefield as Ingong stood amidst scorched enemies. His blade shimmered and golden light pulsed around him. Notifications echoed in his mind. He had leveled up again, now reaching level 9. A rush of energy filled his body, and his companion questioned the sudden burst of light. Ingong brushed it off, masking his surprise at how naturally it happened. Not far ahead, his group noticed a large, sealed door embedded in stone. The battle had ended, but their path continued. They approached cautiously inside. An ancient chamber revealed a glowing symbol etched into the floor. Ingong recognized it from memories not his own. It resembled a town portal from an old game. He theorized it could activate if infused with mana. While exploring further, his companions found a plaque with strange inscription. None of them could read it, until Ingong stepped forward. The text became clear to him. Somehow he had unlocked knowledge of the dwarven language. He read aloud the inscription's final line: infuse mana to activate. Surprised by his new ability, Ingong pondered the deeper connection himself and this world, one that seemed to rewrite his limits with every step forward. Despite his inexperience, Ingong gathered his focus and injected mana into the crystal device. The orb responded immediately, glowing with intense light. Moments later, a large, intricate map materialized in the air before them, displaying the structure of the dwarven mountain. It was a strategic tool, likely revealing hidden paths and location. Recognizing its value, the group decided to retreat temporarily to report the discovery. Back in the city, Ingong was warmly greeted. One warrior, impressed by Ingong's recent feats, requested to learn the legendary beast god fist technique. Though hesitant, Ingong explained the difference between bloodlines and techniques, agreeing to teach what he could. His offer was accepted with enthusiasm, and in return, the warrior offered his loyalty. A bond quickly formed between. The warrior, moved by Ingong's kind, declared him a brother. Though surprised, Ingong accepted, feeling the weight of the word settle into something meaningful. Their handshake sealed a pact, not just of friendship, but of alliance. A system notification confirmed the new alliance with Chris Bornament and Lazio Bornament. With this new partnership, Ingong strengthened his foothold. From that moment on, they stood united, ready to face the challenges of the world together. A group of warriors gathered, sensing something unusual. Their leader confronted a cloaked figure arriving at the camp. As tension rose, the figure revealed herself Princess Felicia Doomblade. Her sudden appearance hinted at a deeper plan behind her visit. While reviewing his stats, Shutra noticed an unusual rise in his charisma. Unlike other attributes, charisma had been increasing independently. He recalled the game's original mechanic, where appearance and likability were separate. Now, it seemed charisma reflected how others perceived. He pondered its implications as he approached level 10, hoping a skill would unlock like in the game. After preparing, he joined his allies outside. Spirits were high as the group assembled, ready to march. Their destination lay beyond the Gishka Mountains, accessible through a long-forgotten cave. As they advanced, scouts pushed through the rocky path ahead, clearing the way into a hidden dwarven portal chamber. Upon arrival, the team confirmed the portal's stability. The mage finished the final activation. A brilliant light surged through the crystal, projecting a clear image of the Eska River beyond. Shutra watched in awe. The gate technology, once limited to games, was now real, and before him, the team stood in formation, the portal humming steadily. Shutra hesitated only briefly before stepping forward. With the path confirmed and the gate active, they were ready to advance. Their next move would take them deeper into uncharted land, toward challenges neither the game nor memory had prepared them for. Shutra stepped through the portal, emerging into a rocky cavern alongside his companion. As they moved deeper, the group spotted a large encampment below. Chris assessed the layout and suggested targeting the supplies for a surprise attack. However, something felt wrong. The camp lacked the expected number of troops. Moments later, distant sounds of clashing steel echoed through the valley. Chris instructed Shutra to channel aura into his eyes. Doing so, Shutra enhanced his vision and spotted a skirmish near the camp's edge. He identified one side as the Lightning Tribe, but couldn't recognize their opponents. Closer inspection revealed the unexpected presence of Dark Elves, an unfamiliar force riding creatures called Dracos. The group observed the Dark Elves retreating quickly. Questions filled the air as confusion spread. Shutra questioned their purpose, wondering why Dark Elves were involved. The battle had ended before they could act. Later, the group established contact with a high-ranking leader through magical projection. The leader praised their success in locating the hidden portal, but questioned how they knew of it. Chris redirected the credit to Shutra, who downplayed his role as mere luck. Yet in silence, all realized the events unfolding pointed to something far greater taking shape. During the strategy briefing, General Bandal revealed new intelligence. The Dark Elves had joined the battle independently and were not official reinforcement. Their involvement puzzled the group until the general mentioned a captured commander. Suspicion turned to certainty when the name was revealed: Felicia Doomblade, the sixth princess. Her presence shocked the group. Shutra, taken aback, realized the commander was his sister. The conflict now carried personal weight as family ties became entangled in the war. Felicia Doomblade, the sixth princess, had once been considered a minor background character tied to another faction. Her unexpected appearance in the conflict raised doubts about her intention. Shutra questioned whether she sought personal gain. Meanwhile, General Bandal and the others speculated that her presence could complicate the current power balance. With limited information, they couldn't yet determine her motive. Despite the uncertainty, the team agreed that if Felicia could be saved, they would try. However, Chris made it clear there would be no negotiation. Any rescue would depend on circumstances. The situation weighed heavily on the group. While Catelyn pushed for immediate action, Chris emphasized caution. Sacrifices couldn't be justified for one person, even if she was family. Later, in their war tent, a rescue strategy was formed. The plan involved attacking the Scarlet Lightning Tribe's main force from the front, while Shutra and Catelyn struck their camp from behind. Their goal was to disrupt supplies and free Felicia if conditions allowed, but Chris's attitude raised concern. His tone suggested detachment, making Shutra wonder if something had happened between him and Felicia. As tension grew, the question of loyalty versus logic loomed, setting the stage for a mission fraught with risk. The battlefield erupted as warriors charged forward under the command of General Bandal. With fierce resolve, the frontline forces clashed against the Scarlet Lightning Tribe, initiating the first wave of their coordinated assault. Explosions tore through the night sky as the camp lit up in flames. The enemy retaliated aggressively, shouting to kill every intruder in sight. Meanwhile, Shutra's forces remained hidden, awaiting the signal to begin their part of the mission. As the front lines fought fiercely, the signal was given, prompting a full-scale charge from the rear unit. The second wave, led by Shutra and Cat, launched their attack as planned. The timing was precise. Confusion spread within enemy ranks. As they stormed the camp, Shutra and Catelyn split their forces. Their target was the food storage area, a key supply point critical to the enemy's operation. The group maneuvered swiftly through resistance. Flames and roars filled the air as the chaos intensified. With Catelyn providing cover, Shutra led his team in a direct assault. Orders were sharp and immediate. burn everything, press forward. Their success would weaken the enemy and open a path to Felicia. The battle had begun, and every second counted toward their objective. In the midst of battle, Shutra struck down an enemy with precise timing. His dagger skill activated instinctively, surprising his allies. As they approached the food storage area, they paused. Destroying it could risk Felicia's life if she were held nearby. Shutra, recalling how NPCs were marked on maps, sprinted to check their tactical display. Spotting a neutral marker, he deduced Felicia's location and redirected Karak toward it. They rushed to a tent marked near the storage zone. Shutra burst in, scanning the interior. Chains shimmered under dim light. A figure emerged, Felicia, seated and restrained by glowing binding. Her appearance confirmed the worst. She had been captured and isolated. Felicia, calm despite her situation, recognized Shutra with quiet surprise. Their eyes met in tense silence. The urgency of the mission collided with the sudden relief of finding her alive. Now, with her location confirmed, the true rescue would begin under tighter pressure than ever. Shutra quickly untied Felicia from her bindings and urged her to move. Knowing the area was dangerous, he emphasized the need to regroup. While driven partly by duty, he also saw potential gain in earning her trust. As they exited the tent, Felicia was surprised that Chris and Catelyn had come for her. Confused by the political tension she hinted at, Shutra realized there was more to her capture than he understood. Before he could ask further, enemies began pouring in from all directions. In the chaos, a warning came too late. Shutra was struck by a sudden attack, falling to the ground. Felicia called his name and rushed to him, but they were now fully surrounded. With urgency mounting, Felicia stepped forward to shield, confronting a wave of attackers herself. Just as it seemed the pressure would overwhelm them, a sudden surge of power radiated from Shutra. Two new skills activated, mana control and fire arrow. Rising to his feet, now glowing with magic, Shutra launched a fiery attack into the enemy rank. His sudden recovery and new strength turned the tide. The battle wasn't over, but their chances of survival had just sharply increased. Shutra unleashed a fiery barrage with his newly acquired fire magic, striking down enemies with precision. The thrill of using real magic surged through him, even though the spell was only at its first level. As the fire blazed, a sudden blast of ice erupted from the ground, freezing the area around. The unexpected element caught him off guard, halting his assault. A distant enemy mage redirected his attention toward Felicia. Seeing the threat, Shutra moved swiftly, placing himself between the ice arrow's sister. Ice shards rained down, but he stood firm, retaliating with his own magic. He successfully intercepted the attack and unlocked a new spell, Ice Arrow. Though victorious, the exertion took a toll. Shutra's health plummeted, leaving him vulnerable. Before he could fall again, Felicia appeared by his side. She scolded him for intervening, reminding him of his weakness among their siblings. Yet, Shutra noticed something was different. Felicia had somehow taken out the enemy mage with ease. Surprised, he watched as she displayed her own power without hesitation. Questions filled his mind. When had she learned magic? And more importantly, why had she pretended to be powerless until now? Shutra was caught off guard when Felicia suddenly struck, misunderstanding his intention. However, instead of harm, a magical light enveloped him, and he realized she was healing him. His wounds closed instantly as he gained a new skill, Heal LV.1. Surprised by Felicia's power, he stood up, now fully recovered. Before they could move further, a terrifying creature appeared. An enraged ogre mutated into a blood ogre, Felicia explained. They needed to go through it to escape. With no other choice, they braced themselves. The monster charged toward them, its rage overwhelming. Shutra panicked, realizing they were outmatched. As the creature closed in, he questioned how they could possibly fight such a monstrous foe. The battlefield shook as the mutated ogre, towering in rage, slammed down in front of Shutra, and Felicia caught off guard. Shutra realized the monster's absurd speed. Felicia, calm but alert, instructed Shutra to distract the ogre while she prepared a magical counterattack. Reluctantly, he agreed and darted off to draw the creature's attention. Charging forward, Shutra equipped a dagger from his inventory. Trusting its magical properties, he infused it with energy and leapt toward the enemy. His timing was precise, and he attacked with full force, aiming directly at the foe's core from the side. An orc warrior named Karak joined the fray. Without hesitation, he intercepted the monster's advance with a powerful strike. The blow was met with resistance, but Karak's strength bought them time. The ogre retaliated fiercely, forcing Karak into a brutal melee. Felicia seized the opening and charged with her magic prepared. With a swift motion, she landed a clean hit. As the ogre tried to regain balance, Karak launched into the air and tackled the monster mid-jump, sending them both crashing away from the other. Their coordinated efforts gave the team a brief but critical chance to regroup and prepare for the next phase of battle. The fierce battle finally reached its climax, as the Green Warrior launched a final, devastating attack. With all his strength, he leapt into the air and slammed down onto the towering red ogre, forcing it to the ground with a violent crash. The battlefield fell silent as the dust settled. The red ogre lay defeated, and the white-haired boy stared at the aftermath in disbelief. Realizing their victory, he watched as light enveloped him. A system message confirmed his advancement to level 10, unlocking new power. Energized by the level up, He opened his reward box and obtained a skill. Battlefield Protection. He understood the skill's effect immediately. Projectile attacks would now barely miss him, just like a protagonist in action stories. Suddenly, more enemies charged toward them. While he hesitated, Felicia stepped forward, summoning a whirlwind with her magic. The gust tore through the enemy lines, revealing something more. The boy sensed it wasn't just magic, it was a spirit. He was shocked. As Felicia radiated with mystical energy, it became clear she wasn't just a mage, but a true spirit summoner. Watching her power in awe, the boy wondered if he too could someday wield such strength. A blinding yellow flare lit up the battle, halting the momentum of the ongoing clash. The enemy forces, recognizing the signal, began to withdraw in confusion. The orc prince confirmed the flare's meaning. Retreat had been ordered. Unsure of the reason, Shutra grew concerned, suspecting danger elsewhere. As the troops prepared to pull back, the prince made a firm decision to head toward Caitlin instead of retreating. Though his companion insisted on joining, Shutra explained the need for the retreat and urged compliance. Felicia, however, chose to stay with him, citing a desire to return a favor and settle unfinished business. Her determination to stand by Shutra strengthened their resolve. With the troops pulling back, Shutra and Felicia moved forward. Questions lingered about Caitlin and the prince's sudden interest in her, but Shutra dismissed them, claiming it was just loyalty. Felicia remained suspicious, but continued on. Meanwhile, Caitlin found herself deep behind enemy line, weaving through waves of red ogres with precise movement. Her attacks were swift and powerful, cutting through enemies with explosive magic and deadly precision. Despite the overwhelming odds, she stood firm, buying time. At a distance, Shutra and Felicia watched, their next move uncertain but inevitable. After Felicia reunited with her allies, their relief was evident. Shutra was surprised to see that Felicia hadn't needed his help, while the others welcomed her warmly. The reunion brought emotional closure to the tense battle. Felicia and her sister embraced, confirming their safety and bond. Despite the light moment, Shutra noticed an alert coming from the strategy. Enemy forces were regrouping and closing in again. The team prepared to retreat as ordered. As they exited through the portal Shutra had previously discovered, the group entered a secured location. Felicia and her sister credited Shutra for the portal discovery, acknowledging his major contribution. One of the warriors, Karak, expressed admiration for Shutra's growth and leadership. Inside the base, they were greeted by Dargos, who was relieved at their return. Felicia and Dargos exchanged a few tense but familiar words, hinting at a deeper shared history. Later, Dargos discussed the broader war progress with the group. General Vandu had won his front, and Yakijan, leader of the Red Thunder tribe, had retreated. However, the danger wasn't over. If Yakijan regrouped or joined with Karyam's forces, the war could reignite. Dargos proposed a preemptive strike to prevent their alliance. Felicia was asked how she ended up there. She explained that she was researching ruins when she heard of the battle and was abducted en route to assist. Her story raised doubts, but she held firm, questioning the suspicion against her. As the night settled, the group was ordered to rest, recovering from the conflict. Shutra, while reflecting alone, was surprised by Felicia's late visit. Her sudden approach left him confused. Without hesitation, she moved close, placing her hand on him and making a bold request. Her actions left Shutra stunned, uncertain of her true intentions or what would come next. Shutra was caught off guard when Felicia suddenly asked him to remove his clothes. Confused, he hesitated, but she calmly explained it was for a proper healing spell. Despite his embarrassment, he complied. Felicia activated a magic circle and cast a stronger healing spell, addressing potential internal injury. While doing so, she noticed his body had shown signs of glowing earlier and questioned. Shutra dismissed it, saying it happens occasionally. Shifting the topic, he requested a personal favor, something only she could help with. Later, Shutra experienced a rush of energy. Thanks to Felicia's help, he acquired 3 new healing spells: Cure Poison, and Cure Disease. This boost also brought new developments to his ability. He joined another companion who introduced him to a martial art called Beast Fist, specifically the Werewolf's Heart. This combat style used both internal and external aura, and Shutra began learning how to manipulate his own. During his training, he awakened a powerful new trait, Protagonist's Physique. The process was intense, his body surging with aura. With this new trait, his resistance, healing, and aura control greatly improved, setting the foundation for stronger abilities in the battles ahead. Shutra unlocked a powerful new skill called Protagonist's Physique, which further increased his training efficiency and granted new traits upon leveling up. Alongside this, he gained other high-level passive abilities that amplified his strength and magic growth. Overwhelmed by the potential of these powers, he celebrated the advantages of his rare ability. However, his training was interrupted by the princess, urging him to stay focused. He quickly resumed, earning the Beast Fist LV Face skill and mastering its basics swiftly. Before he could progress further, an urgent message arrived. Kairam's troops had vanished, disrupting their battle plan. It became evident that Kairam anticipated their move, with intelligence suggesting that Yakujan and Kairam were set to meet. A new strategy formed. The group decided to link up with General Windle and engage the Red Thunder tribe in a decisive battle. They traveled to the main camp, where General Windle greeted Prince Clark warmly. After brief introductions, attention turned to the preparations. Shutra, now more confident and involved, introduced himself to General Windle. Though Windle was unfamiliar, something about Shutra felt strangely familiar. They shook hands, solidifying their alliance before the imminent confrontation against the enemy. As the goddess descended in radiant light, Her presence halted the battlefield. Her gaze was firm, unwavering, as a figure in red armor stepped forward, equally divine yet terrifying. The clash of their powers echoed in the sky, and in the midst of it all, the boy Shutra watched from below, entranced and confused. Emblems of conquest and war seared into his vision, as if marking his destiny. He awoke abrupt, seated on a throne, unsure if it was merely a dream or a vision. Yet the faces from that vision haunted him. The woman in white and the warrior in red, summoned to battle. Shutra quickly joined his unit. Commanders took positions across the front and rear. He was assigned to the left flank. As the march began, time passed in a blur. Before long, he found himself standing on the battlefield, surrounded by chaos and uncertainty. Thousands of enemy soldiers surrounded them. The air was thick with tension. Despite his nerves, he tried to maintain composure. His training had prepared him for this, but the sheer scale of the war was overwhelming. For the first time, he stood in the heart of a true war, where every decision could mean life or death. The army gathered in tight formation, their leader's command echoing through the battlefield. With weapons raised, the soldiers prepared to charge, their eyes burning with determination. The order was given, and the horde surged forward, a wave of steel and fury crashing toward the enemy. But their momentum was shattered in an instant. Explosions erupted across the front lines, scattering bodies and breaking formation. The confident march dissolved into confusion as fire and dust consumed the vanguard. The enemy had anticipated their movements, laying a deadly trap. From the smoke, a massive shadow began to emerge. Warriors froze, staring in disbelief as the ground shook beneath colossal steps. A name left their lips in fear: Swamp Mammoth. The beast's towering frame loomed over the battlefield, its tusks glinting like weapons forged from stone. Panic spread through the ranks. Even the most seasoned fighters struggled to hold their ground as the monstrous creature advanced. Amidst the chaos, Ingong stood firm, his gaze locked on the beast. His realization was grim. The enemy had known everything from the start. The trap was complete, and survival now rested on facing a monstrosity that dwarfed anything they had encountered before. The battlefield grew even more chaotic as a new threat emerged. From the haze, ranks of lizardmen advanced, their blades glinting under the blood-red sky. Their sudden appearance shattered what little order remained, leaving the allied troops scrambling. Ingong's heart pounded as he realized the enemy had accounted for every move. Chris and his companions quickly assessed the worsening situation. Surrounded and outmaneuvered, the realization struck hard. They had been played from the beginning. Chris urged a retreat, warning that pressing forward would only lead to annihilation. Though reluctant, the decision became unavoidable. Orders rang out across the battlefield to form defensive line and hold the enemy back just long enough to withdraw. The lizardmen struck with ferocity, clashing violently against the rearguard. Amidst the chaos, Ingong found himself nearly overwhelmed, but was pulled back to focus by his calm. Their desperate stand reminded him that survival hinged on discipline, not reckless bravery. As the battle raged, Chris's voice thundered above the clash of steel and roars of beasts. His command was clear: every fighter had to survive and return alive. It was not about glory or victory. The priority was survival, and none could afford to fall. The survivors retreated into their encampment, surrounded by silence heavy with failure. Within the tent, leaders gathered, tending to wounds and weighing their next step. Chris admitted his mistake openly, accepting that his negligence had brought them to this state. He resolved not to let his pride drag his comrades into needless death. Before despair could settle further, Felicia spoke up. She recalled her original mission in the region, an exploration of ancient ruin hidden within the Gishka Mountain. Her words shifted the atmosphere, offering a glimmer of purpose beyond retreat. She explained that the ruins once belonged to Enkidu, a dragon who created powerful guardians and bestowed weapons to protect his lair. Among those relics was one of legend, the anvil that gives birth to thunder. This artifact, capable of commanding guardians and unleashing army-scale magic, could change the course of their war. The path was dangerous, but their choice was clear. To win, they had to seek the anvil. The war council gathered under tense urgency as Felicia revealed the existence of the anvil that births thunder, an ancient war machine capable of casting large-scale magic and commanding guardian chimera. As tensions escalated on the battlefield, she emphasized that finding the anvil was their only chance of turning the tide. Despite her conviction, the team lacked precise information. The large red warrior admitted he came seeking the anvil, but knew little of its exact location. Chris, the blonde warrior, grew frustrated, warning that chasing vague legends could endanger lives, especially with enemy movements unknown. Felicia's determination was challenged, and her authority questioned. Just then, Ingong, now embodying Prince Shutra, intervened. Drawing from memories of the original game world, he confirmed the anvil's presence and recognized ancient inscriptions tied to it. His trust in Felicia's instincts outweighed doubts, urging the others to believe in her as well. Chris argued logic over faith, but new clues surfaced. Felicia noted the Gandharva people's legends hinted at a related location. Ingong stepped forward, proposing a targeted search near the ruin. Taking full responsibility, he pleaded for a chance to act. With resolve, he declared it was time to go all in. Felicia summoned ethereal steed, enabling the team to soar through the sky toward the ruin. Mounted atop glowing phantom horses, the the group flew under cover of night. Zhou Ingong, riding with the rest, coordinated their movement toward the rumored site of the anvil. Despite his past experience as Zephyr, adjusting to his current body was difficult. While riding, Zhou Ingong calculated their approach. Using the minimap from the game interface, he estimated an hour's journey to the ruin. Although locating the site seemed simple, guiding the party accurately remained a challenge. He reflected on the tunnel maps he had seen previously and began piecing together landmarks with in-game pattern. Relying on intuition and fragments of in-game knowledge, Zhou Ingong decided to bluff through the rest. To his relief, Felicia understood his reason, choosing to follow his lead without protest. Encouraged, he pressed on confident, even though doubt lingered. Eventually, the group reached a cliffside that appeared to be a dead end. The orc warrior voiced concern, but Zhou Ingong smiled, knowing the entrance wasn't visible because it wasn't meant to be. Instead, he called on Caitlin to force a way through the rock face. With determination, they prepared to uncover what lay hidden beyond. Standing before a towering cliff wall, Caitlin prepared to test Zhou Ingong's theory. Despite skepticism, Zhou Ingong remained confident the anvil was hidden beyond the rock face. He explained that breaking through would bypass the dungeon's guardians entirely. Felicia raised doubts about using brute force, but Caitlin moved forward without hesitation. Harnessing her energy, Caitlin unleashed a powerful concentrated strike. The cliff shuddered under the force of her attack until the stone cracked and crumbled. As the dust cleared, the entrance to a hidden structure revealed itself, confirming Zhou Ingong's instinct. Felicia stared in disbelief he had actually found it. Inside, the team discovered a large chamber centered around a protective dome. Zhou Ingong confirmed that the anvil lay within, but smashing through the dome risked destroying. They needed another way in. While searching the area, Felicia noticed something odd about the surrounding statues. Out of 9, only 3 held weapons. Felicia and Caitlin deduced that the key to unlocking the dome lay in completing the statue's weapon sets, specifically with dwarven-made arms. Though uncertain where such weapons could be found, Zhou Ingong stepped forward, casually revealing that he had 6 dwarven swords on hand, surprising even Felicia with his unanticipated preparedness. Zhou Ingong reflected on the luck of hoarding unusable weapons, which now proved essential. As he distributed the 6 dwarven blades, Karak questioned how they even fit in his small bag, dismissing the detail. They placed the swords into the hands of the empty statues. One by one, the statues activated. A sudden tremor followed, and the dome began to glow and lift. The team stepped forward. Awestruck, in the center of the chamber, surrounded by light, sat the legendary artifact, the anvil that births thunder. Zhou Ingong stared silently, barely believing they had actually found. Shutra stood before the radiant forge, his eyes fixed on the glowing structure that pulsed with power. The others gathered around him, their attention locked on the artifact, said to birth thunder itself. Records had spoken of its activation, and now the moment had come. Each member of the group took their designated position around the disk, forming a circle of determination. Mana began to flow into the forge, guided in sequence, and slowly intensified. The chamber filled with energy, lines of light tracing patterns across the floor. The forge responded with surging brilliance as the air thickened with pressure. Orders were given to remain steady, and every participant poured their strength into the growing storm. Shutra pushed his energy forward, sweat beading on his brow, as the current of power rose sharply. The forge trembled under the force, arcs of lightning, snapping in every direction. With each passing second, his output grew, his body straining to maintain balance. Encouragement was given to hold firm, but the warning not to lower his guard echoed louder in his thoughts. The surge reached its peak, and thunder cracked violently. A blinding flash erupted, shaking the ground and splitting the air. When the light faded, the group found themselves surrounded by fire and chaos. Figures emerged from the shadows, claws and weapons drawn, pressing in without hesitation. The forge's awakening had summoned not triumph, but battle. Shutra froze as the sky tore open, revealing a monstrous shadow. The air shook with the beating of massive wings, and the figure of a black dragon emerged from the clouds. Its roar carried across the battlefield, shaking both allies and enemies alike. The group looked upward, fear tightening their chests as the vision unfolded before them. The image spoke of Enkidu, the great black dragon, a guardian between the demon realm and the human realm. Its presence was not only overwhelming but also terrifying in its command, declaring itself as the gatekeeper. The message echoed through every mind present, forcing them to confront the reality of the dragon's power. When the vision faded, silence gripped the chamber. One by one, the warriors admitted they had seen the same thing. A dragon of immense size, its veins glowing with molten fire, had burned itself into their memories. None could deny what they witnessed. The forge had awakened something far beyond expectation. Among them, a decision formed. The truth could only be revealed through the forge, and hesitation would yield nothing. One warrior approached it, placing her hands upon the glowing surface. Power surged violently, bursting into waves of purple energy that consumed the chamber. She strained to maintain control, her body resisting the overwhelming force. Shutra rushed forward, reaching out, but the power erupted further, dragging them both into its violent storm. Shutra's body was engulfed by violent purple energy as the forge's power surged beyond control. His companions shouted, but the storm consumed all sound. Within the chaos, a voice of conquest echoed, declaring the trial of the Earth Dragon Enkidu. The energy tore through the chamber, and the ground shook as if rejecting the uninvited. When the storm finally subsided, the group found Shutra kneeling, his body glowing with unstable mana. Dark flames coiled around him, reshaping into a weapon of power. His eyes gleamed with an unfamiliar force, leaving his allies stunned. They could only watch as he struggled to steady himself under the weight of conquest. Far from the chamber, another danger gathered in a canyon. The Red Thunder tribe prepared for battle. Scouts had already spotted their enemy's camp, and warriors assembled in silence. At their head stood Yakuizan, the great chief, his presence commanding obedience. With a single order, the tribe ready to strike. Their numbers filled the cliffs, ready to sweep down and crush any survivors who dared remain. A group of goblins and orcs had gathered on the battlefield, unaware of the danger looming overhead. Their moment of confusion turned into terror as a massive explosion erupted in the sky, descending onto their location with overwhelming force. The blast incinerated the ground and tore through their ranks without warning, sending bodies flying in all directions. As the flames raged and smoke thickened, more explosions followed, raining down relentlessly. Chaos erupted among the survivors, but before they could regroup, a heavily armed demonic army charged through the fire. Their advance was swift and brutal, pushing the goblins back into disarray. Among the defenders, panic spread. Their strongest warriors were nowhere in sight. Within the confusion, Chris realized the tide had turned. The enemy's strategy was too precise. The attackers were prepared. Explosions continued to bombard the terrain as enemy commanders issued orders without hesitation. Behind them, mages prepared spells, channeling energy with ease. Just as the invaders moved to eliminate the last defenders, one of their commanders felt something strange. He could no longer move his hands. A mysterious figure emerged, shrouded in purple energy, signaling the arrival of a new force prepared to turn the battle once more. The purple energy intensified around Duo Ingong as his eyes glowed with power. Stepping onto the battlefield, he unleashed a devastating strike that tore through the enemy lines, sending shockwaves and debris in every direction. The enemy soldiers, once confident, were thrown into confusion by the unexpected force. From a cliffside above, the enemy commander watched in disbelief. The attack had come without warning, and its source was unknown. Panic spread among the ranks as the commander questioned why they were under attack and who was responsible below. Ingong moved with purpose, radiating energy that none could approach. Chris, observing from a distance, quickly realized the truth. His expression shifted from doubt to fear. He suspected that the enemy had found the anvil, an artifact of immense power. His fears were confirmed when Ingong stood before the dark object. Now, crackling with purple electricity, the legendary Thunderhammer had reacted, shocked. Ingong stared at the weapon, its power resonating with him. Felicia, standing beside him, revealed that the ancient spirit Enkidu had chosen him. With encouragement from the others, Joe tightly gripped the thunder hammer. The weapon surged with energy. Juo's awakening had begun, and the tide of battle was about to shift. As the thunder hammer pulsed in Juo Ingong's hands, Enkidu's mana awakened within him. He began to understand the weapon's true nature, a tool of domination meant not just for destruction but for conquest. The essence of the anvil responded to him, teaching him its function to subjugate and rule through sheer power. Harnessing this revelation, Ingong raised the weapon, its energy crackling violently. His target was the swamp mammoth, a beast once thought untamable. Power surged from his body as he channeled the hammer's force. In an instant, the mammoth roared, not in defiance, but submission. The spell had taken hold. The beast, now controlled, stormed into the battlefield with devastating effect. Enemies screamed in confusion as the mammoth, once their ally, turned against them. Explosions erupted in its wake as it rampaged through the Red Thunder tribe's ranks. The enemy leader, stunned, watched his forces crumble. Realization dawned. The prince and princess had succeeded in seizing the mammoth. His advantage shattered, he was forced to retreat. The tide turned quickly as allied goblins joined the attack, taking full advantage of the chaos. With momentum regained, the battle entered its final phase, a full assault to crush the enemy once and for all. On the cliffside, the Red Thunder tribe's commander watched in disbelief as the battlefield fell into chaos. The swamp mammoth, once their unstoppable weapon, had turned against them with unnatural force. His subordinate couldn't explain it. The sheer amount of mana being used was beyond any of them. With the tide clearly turning, they considered retreat. Before they could act, a massive shockwave struck near their position. Chris descended into battle with explosive power, targeting the commander directly. With unwavering confidence, he declared the end of their reign. The commander tried to intimidate him, but Chris remained focused. The Red Thunder leader lunged in rage, but Chris countered with unmatched speed and precision. With a flurry of devastating blows, Chris ended the fight in a single exchange, slamming his enemy into the ground. Panic broke out among the enemy troops. Their great chieftain, Yakujan, had been slain. The command structure collapsed instantly. Soldiers scattered, throwing down their weapons and fleeing the battlefield in fear. Chris took a breath, surveying the broken enemy lines. With the major threats eliminated, all that remained was to finish off the remnants. Zhou Ingong and Felicia approached, and Chris acknowledged. Without their help, this battle could have been lost. After the enemy fell, Chris looked to the sky, wondering if the others were safe. Elsewhere, Felicia and her group monitored the battle through the eyes of the controlled swamp mammoth. The anvil's power had granted them real-time vision and complete control over the battlefield. As Felicia explained the anvil's full potential, her strength suddenly gave out. Collapsing into her sister's arms, she struggled to finish her sentence. The Red Thunder tribe was completely defeated. Though exhausted, she assured everyone she only needed a moment to rest. Before they could regroup, a strange presence stirred nearby. As the hallway darkened, someone whispered a single name, Shutra. After surviving a fierce battle, Ingong finally had a moment to breathe. As the system notifications flooded in, it became clear he had leveled up multiple times. Surprised by the rapid growth, he wondered if his control over Enkidu's artifact had contributed to the sudden boost. Among the enhancements, his conquest ability advanced to level 2, and a new skill, King's Knights, appeared. Although its function wasn't entirely clear, he suspected it was a summoning-type skill. While pondering its effects, Caitlin suddenly appeared from the forest, visibly worried. Zhou Ingong realized he had left without a word, prompting a stern scolding and a powerful head chop. Apologizing quickly, he followed her lead as they decided to camp for the night, instead of returning immediately. He was confused until Caitlin explained the real issue. Felicia, their companion, had collapsed and lost consciousness. She had been recently freed from the Red Lightning tribe's captivity and had likely pushed herself too hard. Though she had claimed to be fine, her condition worsened rapidly. With Felicia unconscious, they were unable to summon the phantom steed needed for travel. As the night settled in, Zhou Ingong silently agreed to stay and help. His gaze turned toward Felicia, resting in a dimly lit corner of the camp, unsure when she would wake again. Or if she truly would. As night fell over the mountains, the group rested inside the ruins. Zhou Ingong remained awake, seated near the others who had fallen asleep after the recent battle. Strangely, despite the exhaustion earlier, he felt fully recovered, likely a result of his level up. With no fatigue or pain, he realized that his health had returned to full capacity. Alone with his thoughts, Zhou Ingong began to examine the environment. The ruins might be ancient, but they surely held secrets, treasures, weapons, and perhaps even powerful artifacts deeper inside. Of course, with such potential came risks, traps, monsters, and guardians likely waited beyond the sealed doors. Still, Zhou Ingong held a unique advantage, wielding the ruins anvil, an artifact whose power was limited to this place. He believed he had full control over the space. In his hands, the glowing hammer pulsed with energy, responding only to him. Confident in his authority within the ruins, he decided to explore further and woke Enkidu, the large ogre, from his slumber. Though initially confused, Enkidu agreed to accompany him, together. They stepped deeper into the ruins' chambers. When Enkidu voiced concern about traps, Zhou Ingong assured him that being the ruler of the ruin gave them an edge. Moments later, as they entered a hidden corridor, Enkidu's expression shifted in shock. Something unexpected awaited ahead. As Zhou Ingong and Enkidu ventured deeper, they encountered the slumped body of a massive creature. Alarmed, Enkidu identified it as an arc golem in the form of a griffin, a formidable guardian, likely lethal had they entered the ruins without prior control. Zhou Ingong calmly explained its nature, noting how their timing and status may have spared them a fatal encounter. They carefully moved past the threat and discovered a locked door leading to a hidden vault. Once opened, their eyes widened at the sight of countless treasures, gold, weapons, and magical items piled high. Amidst the riches, Enkidu found a large gleaming set of armor. Zhou Ingong confirmed it was magical, and encouraged Enkidu to take it, noting it was too big for himself anyway. Grateful, Enkidu accepted the gift enthusiastically. While exploring further, Zhou Ingong examined ancient coins and began storing valuable items into his inventory. He advised Enkidu to do the same, emphasizing the opportunity. But as he scouted the chamber, a faint glow from behind a wall caught his attention. A section of the vault shimmered strangely. Curious, Zhou Ingong approached and noticed an unnatural outline on the stone. As he touched the glowing edge, a hidden doorway opened, revealing a narrow path surrounded by swirling magical energy. His eyes widened. A secret space was concealed within the ruins, and it was now unlocked before him. Zhou Ingong stepped into the glowing passageway, his senses alert. The mysterious energy surrounding the path gave him the strong feeling that something important lay ahead. As he walked, the corridor opened into a wide hidden chamber bathed in violet light. At the far end floated an artifact pulsing with dark mana. His eyes locked onto it. Though he had never seen it before, the moment he sensed its presence, a familiar pressure stirred within him. The name rose instinctively in his mind. He recognized the mana, powerful and ancient. The energy signature wasn't just familiar, it was deeply tied to something, or someone, important. As Zhou Ingong approached, the object became clearer, a massive gauntlet suspended above a pedestal. The sensation grew stronger. Without doubt, it belonged to Enkidu, the very being who now traveled with him. The gauntlet's name echoed in his thoughts like a whisper from memory. Enkidu's gauntlet, Zhou Ingong muttered to himself. Then, as if awakened by fate, the name revealed itself in full Earthshaker, a weapon with potential that could change the course of battles to come.
Zhou Ingong stood before a mysterious pedestal bathed in violet flames. Engraved above him was a towering shadow, a symbolic figure of conquest. As he stared up, realization struck. Before him lay the legendary artifact, the Gauntlet of Enkidu, codenamed Earthquaker. Without hesitation, he approached, sensing a magnetic pull from the relic. The artifact resonated with his presence as if calling for him specifically. As he reached out to claim it, the system rejected him. Alarms rang. His level, mana, mental, and physical strength were all insufficient. The Gauntlet's power overwhelmed his current state, but just as he recoiled, a voice granted him permission. Against all logic, Earthquaker acknowledged him as its master. The relic ascended, shining brightly and forcefully latched onto his arm. A system prompt confirmed the Gauntlet was now bound to Shutra, his identity in this world. The immense energy surge made him stagger. Golden light wrapped his body and a surge of strength coursed through him. Ingong watched in awe as his stats increased dramatically. Strength, mana, and stamina all rose. He marveled at the immediate effect of simply equipping the item. Realizing this was just the beginning, he felt a rush of potential. With the Gauntlet of Enkidu now his, Ingong held a powerful artifact beyond expectation, one that might shape his destiny. As the surge of power from Earthquaker faded, Zhou Ingong Shutra was startled by Karak's sudden voice. The ogre had witnessed everything, from the awakening of the Gauntlet to its vanishing into inventory concerned about secrecy. Karak warned that exposure could be risky, especially if others learned of the powerful relic now in Sutra's possession. Despite the gravity, Karak reassured him of his loyalty, promising to keep everything secret unless his life was threatened. With mutual understanding, they decided to leave the eerie chamber behind. But just as they turned back, something caught Zhou Ingong's eye, a stash of resources among the ruins. One item, in particular, gleamed under the torchlight, catching his attention. They returned quickly to their camp, where Felicia lay weakened. A potion of mana recovery, recovered from the vault, was offered to her. As the glowing liquid took effect, her energy began to return, surprising everyone present. Sutra watched closely, confirming the potion's effectiveness. Caitlin, standing beside them, explained what had happened while Zhou Ingong was away. His timely intervention with the potion had brought Felicia back from the brink. However, curiosity sparked when Felicia questioned the origin of the potion. Its presence and Zhou Ingong's access to it raised silent questions. Unfazed, Zhou Ingong stood composed, knowing that every move now required caution, but also realizing his influence was beginning to grow. With Felicia's strength returning, Zhou Ingong reminded her of their surroundings, ancient ruins he now claimed mastery over. As she pieced together her memories, she realized the truth. These ruins were not just a backdrop, they were a foundation for Zhou Ingong's growing strength. He reassured her to rest, promising full mana recovery through the potion he had retrieved. Moved by his calm presence and care, Felicia quietly thanked him. Soon after, the party made their way back to their outpost. The morning sun rose over a rocky valley as their group approached camp. Their arrival was met with cheers. A red-skinned warrior greeted them, praising the prince and princesses for their success. The team's survival and return confirmed the mission's success. Among the greeters stood Chris, who awkwardly tried to acknowledge Felicia's performance. His hesitation amused Felicia, but she accepted the compliment with grace. Zhou Ingong watched from the side, noting her proud reaction. As the celebration settled, Chris reminded them that the mission wasn't yet over. The Red Thunder tribe still lingered in the region, posing a threat. With confidence, he estimated it would take no more than half a month to eliminate the remaining opposition. Though progress had been made, Zhou Ingong and his allies realized the path forward would demand even greater resolve. And that victory was still only partial. Just as Zhou Ingong imagined a brief respite, Caitlin quickly shattered the illusion. His offhand remark about a 2-week vacation earned him a sharp reprimand. Startled, he turned to see her, and another warrior stepping forward with determined smiles, reminding him that their shared responsibilities were far from over. Under the bright midday sky, training resumed in the forested mountains. Zhou Ingong launched forward, his aura flaring as he attempted to focus his energy. A powerful force surged through his body, knocking him back with overwhelming pressure. Though determined, the technique still overwhelmed his control. Nearby, Caitlin stood observing, urging him to push harder. As he lay winded, she reminded him of the cost of failure. Despite his preparation, the physical toll was immense. The intensive training, referred to as Beast Fist art, had begun. In the early days, the sessions consisted mainly of repeated knockdowns. Each attempt to advance ended with him overwhelmed. For nearly a week, Caitlin's strikes were so fast he couldn't track them. But on the 5th day, a change began. By the 7th. He could finally follow her movements, proof of his improving perception. On the 11th day, Yu Ingong's speed and awareness began catching up. He was now able to counter Caitlin's moves, block her attacks, and land his own with increasing precision. The difference from the first days was significant. By nightfall, Caitlin confirmed that both his aura and Beast Fist art had reached level 5. With this progress, she declared he was ready for the next stage, Beast God Fist. Surprised by his own improvement, Sutra realized just how far he'd come in such a short time. Zhu Ingong stood at the threshold of a new stage in his training. He was finally ready to learn the Beast God Fist art, the ancient lycanthrope technique. As Caitlin extended her hand, she began guiding him through a deeper understanding of aura manipulation. This time, the training wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. As their hands joined, a massive surge of energy erupted, encasing them in a pillar of blue light. Zhou Ingong instantly felt Caitlin's aura intertwine with his, leading him through the flow. It felt familiar yet distinct from the Beast Fist art. The energy pulsed not just through his muscles, but deep into his core. Immersed in this guidance, he felt aura transform. No longer just a tool of strength, but a force that connected mana, soul, and purpose. Aura, when pushed to its limit, took on the nature of the soul itself. Through this, he unlocked a deeper potential tied to his power of conquest. As the energy reached its climax, visual indicators confirmed his progress. Both his Beast Fist art and aura levels rose. In that moment, he successfully acquired Beast God Fist art level 1. Caitlin looked on with pride as Zhou Ingong stood, surrounded by swirling aura. With Earthquaker bound to him and his new martial art unlocked, he had crossed another threshold, ready for even greater challenges ahead. Following the breakthrough in his training, Zhu Ingong stood calmly as leaves and energy swirled around him. His level had risen to 14, and the progression felt more than numerical. His strength, aura, control, and spirit had all matured. From a distance, an unknown figure watched in silence. Ingong sensed it too. He knew the real trials were just beginning. The next morning, Zhou Ingong sat across from Caitlin in the mess hall. Over a quiet meal, she raised a topic that had been bothering her Felicia and Chris. She noticed a tension between the two that seemed out of place. Zhou Ingong listened carefully, understanding the implications. Felicia, like Chris, was meant to be a vital ally. Any discord between them could weaken their unity. Caitlin explained that it wasn't hostility, but rather a strange emotional distance. She couldn't recall a specific incident that caused it. Zhou Ingong considered the possibility that it might involve Sylvan, Felicia's twin brother. Though absent, his influence lingered. Mentioning his name surprised Caitlin, who reminded Ingong not to bring up Sylvan lightly. Tojuo Ingong. Sylvan wasn't a stranger. He remembered him vividly from his previous life as a player, an elite warrior, and a difficult opponent. Just as Zhou Ingong voiced his thoughts, Chris appeared unexpectedly. His arrival cut through the discussion, bringing tension and an unspoken confrontation into the room. Chris informed Zhou Ingong that their departure would take place that afternoon. The situation had resolved faster than expected, requiring their return to report in. Slightly confused, Zhou Ingong asked for clarification, but Chris simply reminded him that duties awaited. The moment for rest had passed. Outside the camp, the group prepared to leave. Bandal, the local warrior leader, praised their efforts, commending the princes and princesses for their achievements. With mutual respect, Yu Ingong and Bandal exchanged farewells, both anticipating the day they would meet again. Spirits were high as Chris rallied the team for departure, and the group enthusiastically agreed. Their destination was revealed shortly after the Demon King's castle. Towering and ominous, the stronghold stood as a symbol of power and authority. Its crimson-lit halls stretched deep into the fortress, holding more than just grandeur. At the heart of it all sat a shadowed figure, armored, powerful, and unmoving. The throne room was silent, but the atmosphere was thick with expectation. Something awaited their arrival, and it was watching. Zhou Ingong and his companions begin their return to the Demon King's castle using a hidden teleportation route. Their figures shimmer as they move toward a magic circle deep in the forest. They arrive at a massive stone chamber, where a long-distance teleportation circle glows faintly, ready to bridge them across the realm. With no time for rest, they camp under the stars. The journey spans 3 days, marked by cold nights and flickering campfires beneath the open sky. Zhou Ingong reflects on the political factions within the Demon King's castle, 3 powerful forces led by Zephyr, Baikal, and Anastasia. In the brutal struggle for the throne, strength mattered more than birth order. Zephyr and Baikal, full-blooded demons, rivaled each other in power. Their bloodline, inherited from the Demon King's first queen, Granted unmatched strength, the throne's future would be determined by conquest, not lineage. Jiachu, Ingong acknowledges Baikal's calmer nature, recognizing him as the more fitting heir if reason alone decided such things. But Jiachu, Ingong knows fate is about to shift. That day would change everything. He grips his armored glove and vows to master Earthquaker, preparing for what lies ahead. With new resolve, Zhou Ingong activates the Skill King's Knights, channeling his growing strength. A glowing message confirms the creation of a Knight Order, a feature far beyond ordinary summoning. Shocked, he realizes the skill boosts power, ranks knights, and forms a unit. It's more powerful than he imagined. Juin, Gong wonders how strong this power will grow even at just level 1 Karak. The Ogre Warrior finds him still awake and scolds him for skipping sleep again. Grinning, Zhou Ingong invites Karak to assist with an experiment, make Karak confused. Under the moonlit sky, Zhou Ingong stood before Karak and began a formal declaration, his voice steady with authority. Light surged from his hand as he invoked the knightly power bestowed upon him, binding Karak through the Skill King's Knights. Karak, surprised by the sudden energy, felt a strange but powerful shift within himself, his loyalty instinctively rising. Karak's strength surged as the system acknowledged him. Knight Commander Karak level 24. He could feel it, real growth. Zhou Ingong clapped his hands with joy, realizing the skill truly empowered his allies far beyond expectations. Karak, overwhelmed by strength, asked in disbelief about the changes as Zhou offered him a chance to become the strongest orc. Zhou Ingong assured Karak that he would raise him into a warrior capable of challenging even dragons in the Night Saga. The group reached a tall tower at dawn. The teleportation circle lay waiting inside. Everyone gathered quietly, sensing the importance of the next phase of their journey. Chris looked to Zhou Ingong with a grin, signaling they were ready to depart. Zhou Ingong stepped onto the glowing teleportation circle with calm determination. The group vanished in a flash of light, their bodies lifted into the magic stream. As the teleportation activated, energy spiraled around them, twisting space and vision. Zhou Ingong and the others felt the intense pull, their forms drawn through magical currents. With a blinding flash, Zhou Ingong's body spun uncontrollably through the air, swallowed by the teleportation light. Zhou Ingong lands safely from the teleportation and is quickly joined by Chris, Caitlin, and Felicia. His companions, Felicia's presence draws a warm welcome from her attendants, who greet her with admiration and praise. Zhou Ingong observes the gathering and notes how naturally Felicia commands attention, clearly respected by those around her. He realizes the atmosphere feels more like a fan club than a reception, as Chris is also welcomed enthusiastically. He stands unnoticed, joking to himself about not having his own welcoming party. Even Karak walks past him, adding to the comedic sting of being overlooked. From his place among the group, Zhou Ingong reflects on his position within the Demon King's castle, clearly still low. Unbothered, he accepts the reality and turns to Karak, ready to move forward. With new resolve, Zhou Ingong sets his sights on change, beginning with one step at a time. Under the blood-red sky, a towering fortress loomed, worn and weathered by time. Inside, cobwebs clung to stone corners, showing years of abandonment. Among dusty crates and barrels, Zhou Ingong and Karak found temporary shelter, deciding it was enough to settle for now. As Karak discussed the flexible schedule ahead, Ingong remained unimpressed, likening it to aimless idleness. A knock interrupted them. A purple-haired elf named Flora Stevensword introduced herself from the Demon King's real estate bureau. She revealed that Zhou Ingong's public merit level had increased, granting him access to a better residence, heard that made Zhou Ingong shocked. Another official, Isabella from the Office of Public Merits, confirmed Ingong's qualification for a new place. Standing on a stone platform, Zhou Ingong asked about his eligibility, which Isabella confirmed. She explained his merit had risen to level 5, after leading a successful mission, unlocking new benefits and a higher stipend. Isabella commended him as the first prince to reach this level on a first mission. Curious, Zhou Ingong requested to view the available residences immediately. Karak gasped in awe as they arrived at a luxurious estate surrounded by golden gates. Flora emerged, now in maid attire, welcomed them formally and acknowledged their early arrival. Zhou Ingong clarified that he had used his merit points to hire her as maid and butler. As night fell over their new mansion, Karak looked on, still baffled by the prince's rapid rise. Zhou Ingong stood in a formal hall, adjusting his uniform as Karak nervously mentioned his discomfort. Ingong, clearly irritated, urged Karak to leave quickly, not wanting more pressure before the event. Caitlin praised their appearance. She also stated that Felicia had selected the outfits for the ceremony. Felicia admired Caitlin's work, satisfied that her effort to dress them up had succeeded. Caitlin complimented Zhou Ingong's appearance, stating the outfit matched him well. Zhou Ingong, smiling, thanked both women and returned the compliment, making them both pleased. Chris reminded Zhou Ingong that this was his first official audience in front of the Demon King. He encouraged Zhou Ingong to be confident, as this was his moment to shine. With determination, Zhou Ingong stepped forward, aware that some believed his success was mere luck. The audience chamber filled with important figures watching the approaching group. Ju and Gong walked at the front, flanked by Felicia and Caitlin, also Chris, ready to be seen. He was determined to change their opinions of the once-dismissed prince. Inside the grand chamber, nobles lined up as the audience ceremony began. Chris knelt before the throne, formally presenting himself to the Demon King. Demon King Mitra looked down from his throne, overseeing the gathered assembly in silence. The Demon King's advisor declared the beginning of the report on the prince's achievements. Ju and Gong silently recognized Demon King Mitra as the supreme authority and father to all princes and princesses. Ju and Gong's expression shifted as he remembered the immense power the Demon King held and the importance of this moment. Ju and Gong felt an overwhelming pressure emanating from Mitra's presence, forcing him to his knees. He struggled to stay upright, his body trembling under the force pressing down on him. A powerful memory surfaced, someone reminding him of the need to conquer, to dominate rather than collapse. That voice urged him to act, not as a follower, but as a king in his own right. Ju and Gong clenched his fists, eyes glowing, and pushed against the pressure with renewed resolve. He activated the power of conquest, letting it burst out in defiance of the oppressive aura. Now standing firm, Ju and Gong's body radiated golden energy, meeting Mitra's gaze head-on. Mitra looked at him with curiosity, watching the boy's determination grow. From across the hall, Mitra spoke his name, catching Felicia's attention. Chris and Caitlin gasped, surprised that the Demon King acknowledged him directly. Ju and Gong knelt again, steady and composed, waiting for the king's words. Mitra gave a rare smile, expressing interest in Ju and Gong's future achievements. King Mitra emerged, casting a shadow across the startled crowd. His attention is fixed on the boy named Shutra. Felicia's eyes widen with disbelief. Chris and Caitlin react in shock, alarmed by the sudden recognition of someone so unexpected. The room holds its breath as an unusual name is spoken aloud as Ju Ingong, alias Shutra, knelt with respect. King Mitra smiles gently, expressing hope for Shutra's potential. The words carry weight that no one can ignore. Whispers rise among the audience, confused by the king's direct address. The nobles are stunned by the informal recognition. Shutra reflects on the moment. Though the praise was simple, coming from the Demon King made it deeply significant. The sentiment takes root within Shutra, who now sees the moment as a turning point in his life. Filled with determination, Shutra pledges to meet the king's expectations no matter the challenge. Thus begins the tale of Shutra Ignis, a prince who would take on duties. Early the next day, Karak urges the sleepy prince awake, interrupting his brief rest. Shutra opened the letter as wonder why public office sent him that, but his eyes widened. As he reads the letter, confusion washes over his face at the unexpected contents. Realizing its importance, Shutra concludes that his father has entrusted him with a personal mission. Later that day, the sun sets over the academy as Shutra shares his assignment during dinner. Chris and Caitlin listen closely, recognizing the mission as a monster, suppression task in Enger Plains. Though they can't join him, Caitlin expresses confidence in Shutra's strength to face the mission alone. Chris warns Shutra that with new attention comes risk. Allies and enemies alike will soon begin to act. He emphasizes that some will try to get close, while others will remain cautious and suspicious. Shutra understands, aware of how rare it was to be called by name by King Mitra, that alone drew eyes to him. Chris reassures Shutra that support is available if he needs it, offering his help without hesitation. Before leaving, Shutra is told to visit Felicia, who apparently has something important to give him. With the sun setting, Shutra prepares to depart, aware that the journey will require strength and readiness. Felicia hands him a reliable mount, ensuring he travels swiftly through harsh terrain. She then gives him a glowing crystal, causing Shutra to question its value. Realizing it's the sacred Dark Elf's tear, he's shocked by the rare and significant gift, usually unobtainable without deep trust. Felicia explains the noble nature of the Dark Elves who live beyond good or evil. With unexpected emotion, she embraces Shutra and urges him to return safely. Shutra is stunned by her sincerity, not expecting this warmth from her. Flustered, Felicia pulls away and brushes off the moment with embarrassment. As Shutra heads for the teleportation gate, he waves goodbye, promising to return. Felicia watches silently. As the gate closes, her final word, a soft farewell, a flash of teleportation, magic lights up the Enger Plains as Shutra, Karak, and their mounts arrive at the destination. They land safely within the circle. Shutra scans the surroundings as the light fades, and escort greets them formally, acknowledging Shutra as the 9th prince, confirming their arrival. A woman introduces herself as Karma, the ranger assigned to lead their mission. Her tone is confident and direct. Shutra responds politely, though surprised by Karma's appearance, noting she belongs to the satyr race. Karma expresses her excitement, treating the task as a personal honor and urging them to begin. The group begins riding through the plains. Karma estimates 2 days of travel to reach the Centaur settlement. Shutra agrees. When asked about their numbers, he explains they will proceed as a small group for now. Karma remains optimistic, noting the Centaur allies will balance any disadvantage. Shutra silently prioritizes the issue of proper weapons. As they travel, a strange sound catches their attention. Shutra and Karma remain alert. Karma takes the lead and moves ahead to investigate the source of the noise. She dashes forward swiftly, eyes scanning the terrain for any sign of threat. Karma stops in shock as she spots something unexpected in the distance. A massive pack of Cassius beasts charges across the plain, somehow tracking them directly. With danger closing in fast, Shutra races forward, preparing for a confrontation they hadn't anticipated. A centaur races in panic as a monstrous Cassius beast lunges at him, its jaws wide with fury. He turns to flee, eyes filled with terror, knowing the pack is closing in fast. Karma charges in from behind, leaping into the fray without hesitation. Shutra watches as the centaur stumbles near his mount, clearly shaken. More beasts appear across the ridge. The ambush has begun earlier than expected. With calm resolve, Shutra activates his gauntlet. His eyes flash,